So I had a few thoughts I wanted to share today. And I actually took my walk this morning and was kind of focusing and kind of getting information regarding this. And I wanted to share it with you guys in regards to what our youth, adults, and seniors are dealing with on a daily basis. There's so much anxiety and depression that we go through and that we're dealing with for different reasons. And it begins at a very young age. Kids go through traumas or different things at home when they're little, from the ages of 3, 4, 5 years old to whatever age. And they keep on repeating and carry this with them throughout life. When this happens, it makes it very difficult because they don't know how to focus or move forward through this at any time. They continue to kind of do whatever they need to do in order to get through it, but they don't have the right tools to work with. And when it comes to anxiety and depression, some of the things that it's important to focus on is literally focus on the core essence of where it began and where it started. When we get into our teenage years, we find different outside sources to kind of fix that. Into our mid 20s and 30s, we use other sources and other things, distractions. We find everything in the world to distract us. We get married, we have kids, we're single parents, whatever the case is. But the anxiety and the depression is always at the core essence of everything. And it gets piled on and piled on as time goes on. So what I try to do with the work that I do is I go in and I find the core beginning of where that all started. It's not about using the different sources that maybe your doctor says or this person says or go do running. It's learning to understand where it came, where it began, and how to break that open, walk through it, deal with it, and focus on how to heal that portion and that part of you so you can change the outcome. When we stay in the present moment, we understand life a little bit differently and we see things. But when we don't stay in the present moment, we're in our head thinking about yesterday's and everything that's happened to us. We repeat those patterns over and over again, and we can't seem to get past or through or make a change. So, those thought processes we keep on repeating over and over again. So, what we did yesterday, we're doing tomorrow. We want to change that, and we can change that. And we think this is out of our control. We can't do that. It's so difficult because society says one thing, but that's not so. Our brains and our minds are so strong and adaptable, and we can do so much when it comes with that through the healing processes and the natural healing ways of getting through that. One of the things is once you identify the core essence is to understand it, break it apart. When you get to that piece to the puzzle, it's being able to let it go, release it. And that's where my abilities come in. I'm able to kind of help you source it and to find something to replace that with. And as you're letting go, sometimes we have to understand that a lot of what we carry with us may not be our energy, may not be our stuff. A lot of it's projected from the people that were around or how it began. And that energy is about them. It's not even about us, but we've taken it on ourselves. We've brought it into our lives and made it feel like it's ours. And that's how we keep on processing through life. As we go on and we start doing these different methods and different things to practice within our lives, we can start bringing in new ways of healing and doing things in a healthier way and replacing the old ways that aren't healthy for us. New energy is not comfortable energy, it's different. But when we step into the old energy, that's old energy that carries out the old patterns, and we don't want to be a part of that old pattern anymore. So when it's comfortable, sometimes it's not healthy. It's just something we're used to. We want to get through that and bring in new beginnings, new things, and change something. Always test and go into your heart chakra to understand and to feel, how does that feel when we're in our heads. Sometimes that makes us feel like we're so just repeating and going over and over in our head trying to figure out a different outcome. It's not about figuring out a different outcome in your head. It's about walking through this and being present and doing something new and different, bringing something in that's not comfortable, but it feels good. Always test and go into your feeling mode. Understand what that brings to the table for you. When something feels right and it feels good, then explore that, expand that, move forward with that, change your patterns, change what comes up. Instead of going and doing something the way you used to and stepping into old patterns and old ways of doing things, try something new. Bring something new and different in and see how that makes you feel. Put yourself into a new activity. Find something that feeds you. Find something that makes you feel good. And it just kind of opens up those parts of you that you haven't been able to really tap into for so long because you've been in that cycle of whatever it is for you. And when we spend time in our heads, that cycle and that anxiety shoots up. We think the harder we think, the more we think, we try to process everything through our heads, then anxiety gets higher and higher and higher. We have triggers. We may think when we have anxiety or it's really high, it may be something in that moment. You may have a trigger in that moment, but that's not the source of. And you always want to kind of discover what the source is so you can work through and heal that part, not the trigger itself. We have triggers every day in our lives, but if we can identify them, know where they're coming from, and basically kind of look at it for a moment, take a deep breath and think, oh my gosh, that has nothing to do with who I am today. That pattern and that feeling was when I was a child, when maybe something happened at home or something happened at school, whatever it may be. And that's how you begin to identify and understand where these sources are coming from. And that's what we're healing. We're healing the beginning and the starting point, not the end or the trigger. And it's not as hard as it sounds. It's once you're aware of it, you can move through it and you can heal it. And it starts with you. And it starts with making changes in your daily lives. And that's one reason why I began to do coaching. I've always been a psychic and an intuitive. I've always done channeling mediumship. But sometimes people misunderstand that, but I wanted to be able to give back. And with my ability and my gifts, I've always been able to get to sources and detail them out and identify them for you. So when you can't talk about trauma or things, or sometimes we blank things out and we don't remember, I can go in and I can bring it to the surface and show you. And then it's like, I didn't even think about that. And it brings that awareness. Once you're aware of something, you can begin to heal it, and you can focus on the moment and staying in the moment and not going back into the old energy and the fear that comes up with old things, because sometimes fear is so overwhelming, and once you break it open and understand where that fear is coming from, it goes away because it's something you have built up emotionally, and sometimes from a source you don't remember where it began. So these are some of the steps I take to work with people and help them heal along the way so they can change their lives and have a happy and joyful life.